Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
What's up, guys? It's Carrie Marshall, Master Certified Coach, and today we are going to talk about life coaching and the mental health crisis. So in the news right now, we're hearing a lot about mental health. There was a mass shooting, some school shootings, and a lot of times what people are saying is, well, there's a mental health crisis. So today what I want to talk about specifically is life coaching and how life coaching fits into the mental health space. So oftentimes what we're going to do is we're going to talk about mental health a lot like we talk about our physical health. When we talk about mental health, sometimes people, and especially people my age, I just turned 40 and above, a lot of times I see that people get stuck thinking that mental health means that something has gone wrong. And that's absolutely not the case. Lucky for us, now we're in the realm of knowing that mental health is absolutely crucial to our well-being, and that taking active care of our mental health is absolutely necessary. And so when we talk about the difference between mental health and physical health, what I like to think of is that just like maybe you go to a dentist or a doctor for maybe a physical, right? I come from a dental family, so you better be getting in for those 6-month checkups. But when people can do that, we're able to, in the dental office, we're able to really help people get the optimal benefits from their teeth and from their oral health. And so we talk about that. So we want to be checking in with that. But sometimes things happen. Sometimes people have a toothache. Sometimes they might need some corrections, a cavity, things like that. And so they're going to need a little bit more extra help. So when we talk about mental health, that's what I want you to be thinking of, is that when we talk about everyone's mental health, I absolutely believe that you should have someone in your field, in your circle of influence, that is your mental health practitioner. That means somebody that is checking in and that you can go to twice a year to just kind of have somebody to talk to, so that when things happen, right, when there's that root canal, that toothache, that mental break for yourself, that really built up anxiety, that you have someone that you can come and talk to. And so today what I want to do is we're going to break down and we're going to talk about different modalities of mental health. Now, I'm not the expert here. I just love mental health so much, and it means so much that I just want to give you my perspective. And I really want to encourage you to go out and find different people's perspectives, different experts in their field that you can go and actually talk to. But what I want to encourage you first is that mental health is absolutely like your physical, oral health, anything like that. You absolutely want to get the right people to talk to, because it matters a ton. It matters so much. So a life coach, what is a life coach? A life coach is somebody that can come and talk to you in a non-judgmental, I say all the time, a non-judgmental space where you just get to talk about what's going on in your head. And a life coach is really good at asking open-ended questions. Now, an open-ended question means that it's not like a yes or a no. We're going to ask you questions that are going to make you think. They're going to make you kind of expand and open up into what you've been thinking all along that's just kind of floating around in your head. A life coach is somebody that is, like I said, non-judgmental, but they're also not there to tell you what to do. Most of the time, and this is the life coach school that I was certified through, we are just there to help you have an opportunity for awareness in your own space. And what you do with that awareness is up to you. Life coaching is for people that are fully functioning, meaning that you can get out of bed in the morning, you're going to work, you're doing all of the things, but maybe you see that you're really anxious, you had something happen in your life. Those are the types of times that you want to get a life coach in your corner. And like I said, a life coach might be the person that you go to on twice a year to just kind of check up with and see what's going on. Now, occasionally, you're going to find that you're going to need a little bit more extra help in your corner. You're going to want to expand your support system. And so these are times that you're going to be struggling to get out of bed, have relationships, take care of yourself. Those type of things are when we're going to want to get extra layers of support with your mental health team. So I'm going to use my own personal example in this because I think it's important that we know exactly what goes on with our mental health. I have coaches, one coach, at least one coach at a time. Usually I just work with one coach at a time. But I have my life coach that I talk to, and this is on a monthly basis. Sometimes we talk every week, and sometimes it's really once a month because I have other things going on, and I'm like, it's great, I'm feeling great, I don't really have a ton to talk about. So my coach and I work specifically on things, like I said, personal things that are going on with me, where I'm anxious, where I'm nervous, those type of things. But every single year since I was probably 16 or 17, about December to about February, I noticed that I would get really, really, really down on myself. Sometimes I would have a hard time getting out of bed. I disconnect from my family, from my friends. I don't really talk to a lot of people. And I just start to feel like inside my brain, like my thoughts, my feelings kind of get dark. It just kind of feels like day after day, more blankets are put on me is kind of how, and sometimes I wake up and I call it the blanket cave. Sometimes I'm already in the blanket cave. Well, it wasn't until my 20s, after my babies, I had my babies, that I realized that I was suffering from seasonal depression. And I absolutely suffered from postpartum depression. So when I went through postpartum depression really severely with my second child, I felt really alone. Because when you're in that mental space, it's hard to see what's happening. But luckily, I had some people around me that could see it. And so what we did was we went and talked to my OBGYN, and he referred me to somebody else. And it was really great because at that time, I could see that what we were doing was we were expanding my support team. And that's what I want you to think about with your own mental health, is occasionally, sometimes talking to your spouse is enough. But sometimes we need to expand our mental health team. We want to get a support team around you that is absolutely going to be able to handle whatever you're going through. And so think about that as an expansion of your support team. So during my seasonal depression, I have to expand my support team. So I have my own checklist where I know exactly where it goes from I need my coach to I need my doctor and my therapist. And that can expand, but it can also contract. And I think that that is one of the things when we talk about mental health that people need to be aware of, is that an expansion for your support team doesn't mean that it's always going to look that way. You can absolutely contract the support team when you feel like you're in that space of not needing as much help or help from medication. That's another thing. I'll absolutely take sometimes medication during that seasonal depression. And then I know exactly when to contract back and say, I think I'm good. But we do it with the help of a support team. And that's what I want to offer, is that, when we start on something, we want to make sure that our support team is there for the entire process of that. Because as much as maybe I think I might be ready to get off my meds or whatever, I want to make sure that that's in line with my support team so that they can help me throughout that same process. So life coaching is here to help us so that we really can start to see, that mental awareness. How am I doing? Do I feel mentally fit? What does somebody else think? Where am I at? Where are my blind spots that I'm not seeing? So we've talked a little bit about that. So when does therapy, psychology, those types of things come in? Like I said, if you ever find that number one, you're having a hard time functioning in your life, this is a great time to go and talk to a doctor or a therapist or a psychologist. They absolutely are trained to do this type of work. I like to say that that's above my pay grade. Life coaching is absolutely a benefit, and it's one of the biggest benefits. That's why I became a life coach. But we absolutely need to call in the right people when it's time. So never be afraid to ask for the expanded support and what that would look like. Never be afraid of getting a consult. Never be afraid of asking other people for referrals and things like that. That's one thing that I really want to break through is asking other people for referrals. So often we'll come and we'll say, my child needs a therapist, but we do it in these hush-hush tones instead of like you would if your child needed their tonsils out. You'd probably put it on a text thread to all your family and friends and say, who's the best? We need, my kid needs their tonsils out. So we want to make sure that we're breaking through those things, that getting and asking for mental health help is taboo. It is absolutely needed and required. So we have therapy, we have psychology, we have your own doctor. At times, you are absolutely maybe going to need to go even a step further and go directly to the emergency room. Now, these are times that you're thinking about suicide ideation, active suicide, which means that you're not only contemplating it, but you have got things in place to make that happen. Anytime that you're thinking about hurting others, this is a time that you absolutely want to step in, and you might need to step in for somebody else. This might be a time that you see someone else that is having suicidal thoughts or something, and you will absolutely want to get them to the right place. And the very first place that you want to start is probably the emergency room. And so if we are in that type of dire situation, that's what you're going to want to do. To kind of go back to the emergency room and even dental, sometimes dental emergencies, people will go to the emergency room first because it feels like it is absolutely an emergency. I used to work in the dental industry with my family, and one time we were at a family function. My dad got a call. A kid had just been hit by a baseball at a baseball game, and completely busted his teeth, his nose, all of it. And so they called my dad in at the emergency room. So I had to go in there. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because, like I said, with mental health, absolutely, if it is an emergency, we want to go to the emergency room. Now, we've talked about life coaching, therapy, psychology, really, really briefly. These are just kind of intros. But what I want to offer you as well is that there's so many different modalities, which are just different ways of dealing with mental health. Another type of technique that I love to do is I have something called a breathing coach. Now, my breathing coach is Audrey O'Brien at The Breathing Co., and you definitely need to check her out on Instagram. But one of the things that I noticed is through breath work, learning how to breathe, belly breathe, breath of fire, all of these different exercises that she taught me and we do together. It was such a great way of processing emotion for me. And it was a great way for me to tap into different thoughts that I don't have access to when I'm not sitting consciously doing work on my body that way. And so remember that when we talk about mental health, there's so many different avenues that you can go about getting mental health help. And we want to make sure that we're sending that message that mental health is just as important as your physical health. I've been in those hard spots, and I've watched my clients go through these really, really challenging places. I just did a consult with a guy that said, if my family knew that I was talking to a life coach, they would totally make fun of me. And that almost hurt my heart hearing that, because I thought to myself, when was the last time we made fun of somebody for going to the doctor for their physical? I hope not ever. But why are we making fun of people for getting help with their mental health, seeing a life coach, talking to a therapist, getting on medication? These are things that we want to make sure that we're supporting. And, as we've been in this really, really hard, horrific time this past week with some mass shootings and a school shooting, like I mentioned before, a lot of people have talked about mental health. But what I want to offer you today is that what we really want to be able to do is come back to our own self, our own family, and our own small community. That is where the change happens for each of us. When I was in the darkest times of my postpartum depression, I couldn't help anybody. It was hard enough for me to take care of myself and my newborn, and I had another kid at home. But I wasn't in a space to be able to do that. I needed a community to come around me and support me for a little bit. And luckily for me, I had that. So many people don't have that access because we're so afraid of mental health and talking about it. So my challenge to all of us today is I want you to start with you. Who do you have in your life, whether it's a really trusted friend, a life coach, but who do you have that you actually have honest conversations with? Who do you have that you can be brave and vulnerable with and tell people when it is your darkest day or your most anxious time or the time that you're most upset and angry with somebody? Those are the conversations that are going to have an impact on your mental health. But when we bottle them up and we keep them inside, it can ruin us. That's what we're seeing happening. The most interesting thing about the pandemic for me was I was life coaching. I've been a life coach for several years before that, but I was life coaching intensely through that. I was at one point, I think I had a 50-hour week where I was on the phone, on Zoom with people, hour after hour after hour talking to them. And the one thing that I saw was that most people were at first a little bit scared about their physical well-being. But after that first little bit, they were most worried about their mental health. People would get on and say, I'm just so excited to talk to somebody. They were so disconnected from other people that even just having those conversations meant the world to them. I had one person that after the coaching session, they said, can you just tell me a little bit about what it looks like outside where you live? She lived in Europe. And I said, yeah, I'd love to tell you. And I said, do you want me to turn my camera around and show you? And she started to cry. And she said, I just miss traveling so much. And she said, I miss seeing different areas and different places and different things. And so our mental health absolutely took a toll during that time. And for a lot of people, it hasn't come back because they don't have people to talk to. So I'm going to encourage you once again to start with yourself and look on your own well-being and your own mental health and ask yourself, how do I feel like it's going? And then the next thing to do is turn around and ask the person next to you. Ask a family member, ask somebody that you think is struggling, reach out and text somebody. I have a group of girlfriends that we've been friends for years and years and years. And the other day I just sent out a message and I was like, hey, mental health check, how we all doing? And I was actually really fascinated and surprised to see that some of them, I thought, oh yeah, we're all doing good. Our kids are almost done with school. Like we're all kind of just hectic and busy. But then a couple of us really had some hard things going on. And that one text meant that we could open up and be vulnerable with each other. Do that more. Be that person. Be willing to be not only the person that texts, but the person that is vulnerable. That's the part that I love, is my friend that said, hey, this hard thing just happened. We were all there supporting and loving her because that's what we all do. This is just an intro to mental health, like I mentioned. And, like I said, am no expert in all of the different modalities. We didn't even touch on, this whole new modality of, using psychedelics and things like that in therapy. And so There's a million different options out there for you. But option number one that is a requirement is starting to get the support that you need. So start small. Start with that one support that you need. And then, like I said, understand and be willing to have your support system expand with your needs of mental health. I hope this has been helpful. And if you have any questions about mental health, where to find help, anything like that, please come and message me on Instagram. I'm at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching with a lot of underscores in there. But if you just search Drive Your Thoughts Coaching, you're going to find me. But I absolutely am passionate about this, and I want to help as many people as I can. So if you're at that very beginning stage of like, I don't know who to ask, go ahead and DM me. Just say, hey, Carrie, I need some help with finding a mental health person, a coach, therapist, whatever, and I'd be happy to help you along the way. This is absolutely something that we need to start taking really, really good care of because, as we know, it matters. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.